What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bucky Brooks Show. We are going to have a lot of fun just talking about all things football. We're going to try and do a new little deal where we talk about the NFL game from a bunch of different angles using my experience as a former player and scout to kind of break the games down in a different light. And this is kind of fun for me because now I get to riff on all the things that kind of catch my eye over the course of the weekend. So the Thursday night game, anything that happens on Sunday, we won't get a chance to talk about the Monday game, but we'll revisit that later in the week. And the number one thing that I am buzzing on, coming off the heels of the weekend, Josh Allen is the MVP. And it has taken me a long time to come to grips with Josh Allen being the MVP of this league, but I have to give it to him just based on what I saw in a 44-42 loss to the LA Rams. Josh Allen was clearly the best player on the field. And we could talk about the numbers and those things, but when you see a player score 6 touchdowns in a variety of different ways, showcasing the arm talent, the athleticism, the running skills, basically showing take over the game skills, I think that is what really catches your eye. And when we talk about the most valuable player in the National Football League, normally that award goes to someone who's put up ridiculous numbers for the best team in the league. What I can tell you is, in watching that game, you remove Josh Allen from the Buffalo Bills are not even close to being the team that can win the division, team that can compete with the heavyweights in the AFC. And I know we can say that about a lot of quarterbacks, but I think it's the one-man show that Josh Allen is. Um, you normally just don't see guys that are 6'5", 200 and almost 50 pounds that can run and make plays that he can make with his arm. He kind of reminds me of a refined version of what Cam Newton is as a player in terms of physically down near the goal line, scoring, putting the team on his back, running quarterback power and quarterback draws and those things in the red zone, while also being a more refined player in the pocket. And you won't get a bigger Cam Newton fan than me, but I would say that Josh Allen is even different than what Cam Newton is because his game in the pocket is a notch above what Cam Newton was able to do. And I believe, going all the way back to when Josh Allen was drafted, I thought that Sean McDermott and a lot of the guys that work in Buffalo, Brandon Beane and at the time, Joe Shane, all those guys have been in Carolina. And so they had been around the Cam Newton experience. And in my version, and in my estimation, I believe they saw a version of Cam Newton when they evaluated Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming. Because remember, when Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming, he was not a polished product. He was a guy that elevated his team, particularly as a sophomore. Then his final season in Wyoming, it fell off a little bit in terms of production, but what you saw was just a raw athlete with unbelievable physical tools. Much like when you watch Cam Newton at Auburn when he was coming out, you saw a raw athlete with physical tools that just dominated the SEC, and he was able to elevate his team and win a national title. While Josh was not able to do that at Wyoming, and he hasn't necessarily been able to do that in Buffalo, he certainly has taken them to higher heights. After he got with Brian Daboll, they found a system that worked for him in terms of utilizing all of his skills, featuring him in a way that he wasn't even featured at as a collegian, being able to run the ball down in the red zone, being encouraged to run and take advantage of all the things that he's been blessed with to move the offense, to generate big plays and production. Well, now you throw in Stephon Diggs a few years ago. You see Stephon Diggs have 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. You see Josh Allen evolve as a passer, become a guy that was a scattershot thrower at Wyoming and a scattershot thrower really early in his career to being a guy that you could depend on and rely on in the passing game. Well, this year what they did is they removed Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and some of the weapons around Josh Allen and asked him to do what Pat Mahomes was asked to do for 2 years, elevate the weapons around you, even though you don't have the same weaponry around you. Josh Allen has done that. The Buffalo Bills, look, I know they lost one to LA. The Buffalo Bills are sitting at 10-3. I don't know if anyone had them sitting at 10-3 at this stage, looking ahead when we saw them in the preseason. But here they are, winning the AFC East, positioned to be maybe the number 2 seed in the AFC, behind Josh Allen being, I would say, selectively incredible when it comes to playing the position, meaning He hasn't put up the numbers that he put up previously. He's put up like ridiculous numbers in previous years, but this year he has been able to manage the game and then kind of insert himself when needed. So there are games where he doesn't have to put on the Superman cape and do the great stuff. But on Sunday, we saw him put on the cape. And all the superhero things that made a bunch of scouts fall in love with him, we've seen that. 6 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Look, had the Buffalo Bills positioned to steal a game in which they were clearly outplayed by the LA Rams. That's the kind of stuff that most valuable players do. And it's one of the reasons I expect Josh Allen to be named MVP at the end of the season. Now, let's go to what a segment that we call it 4 downs. 4 downs. I'm gonna give you my take, my interpretation on 4 different topics that kind of came up to me watching games over the course of the weekend. And the first thing that I want to talk about is, look, I talk about Josh Allen being the MVP, and the guy that he's chasing is Pat Mahomes in terms of kind of being the best quarterback in the league. Well, we got to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and how they continue to win games. And so to me, the Kansas City Chiefs have mastered the art of winning. And when I say that, I want people to understand what I mean by mastering the art of winning. There are different ways that you can win in the National Football League. Sometimes you win because your team is clearly better than the opponent. Sometimes with your talent, you're just able to play to your talent, get the ball to your best players, and they win. Sometimes it's my offense is so loaded that I don't need a great defense, but hey, we can just light it up. Sometimes my defense overwhelms the opponent, and we just need to be complementary on offense. Don't mess it up. Don't turn it over. Get field goals, score when we're able and we're set up based on defensive returns and those things. However you do it. For so long, when we thought about the Kansas City Chiefs, we thought about an explosive, high-powered offense, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, throwing the ball all over the yard. The last couple years, we've seen them do it in a different way where they've been a little more pedestrian. They've been more Patrick Mahomes-centric. He has to do everything to a cast of unheralded playmakers that may or may not be able to make plays consistently, but as long as number 15 is there, they've been able to get it done. This year, it's been completely different than what we've ever seen from the Kansas City Chiefs. They're winning in improbable fashion. They're blocking field goals. They're banking field goals in. They're finding various ways to win. And it has resulted in a 15-game win streak in one-score games over the past 2 seasons. And the reason why it stands out this year is because the Kansas City Chiefs may finish with the best record in football, but they may be the most vulnerable that they've ever been at during this dynastic era. And looking at this team is barely winning games every week. It doesn't matter the caliber opponent. Every week is coming down to the final 2 minutes, and they're finding a way to eke out a victory. And it's one of the things that's frustrating for all of the people that are preying on their demise. They can't figure out why the Kansas City Chiefs have been able to do it time and time again. Well, the reason why they're able to do it is there are a few things that they have that other teams don't. One, they have 15. Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football, and we've seen in the fourth quarter, he absolutely goes bananas in terms of making plays. He normally is a guy as a dual threat who doesn't really run until he absolutely has to run. And normally he saves that for third down, 2-minute, end of game scenarios or gotta have it situations. And we're seeing Pat Mahomes in these gotta have it situations show up, scramble, run, get first downs, make the critical plays at the end of the game that allows his teams to steal it at the end. He did it again, led the team on a game-winning drive, made a handful of plays, ran around, found some scramble tosses, whatever needed to be done, he was willing to do it, and he continues to find that. So when you got Pat Mahomes, you're always in it because he is the most clutch of the clutch quarterbacks in the league, and he shows it every week. But their art of winning, their mastery of winning, goes beyond that. Yeah, we can talk about the Super Bowl experience, but I would say it's really the winning pedigree. Um, Look, 50 Cent used to say, like, winners win. And this is what they do. The Kansas City Chiefs find ways to win. And when you won in so many different ways, they have a positive vibe on their sideline that someone's going to make a play to get them over the top. We've seen it time and time again. We talked about the field goal blocks. We've seen them make clutch plays. Improbable guys make plays. Sometimes it's the veteran guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce that make plays. But regardless, there's always a sense that they're going to make plays. And then when you think about on the defensive side of the ball, Chris Jones coming up with a timely sack, or Trent McDuffie making plays, or any of the other under the radar players like a George Karlaftis or Nick Bolton making plays. And what I would tell you is their belief gives them a chance to always win games. And so when you think about how they're mastering the art of winning, they're mastering because the quarterback plays at a high level. They believe that they always can win. They have a bunch of players that find different ways to get it done. And then Andy Reid has somehow preached the virtues of playing complementary ball, despite what everyone wants this team to be. They're really the masters of playing complementary football. And I hate to evoke the old images of the evil empire, the New England Patriots. But I'm telling you, the more that I look at this version of the Chiefs, they remind me of the early 2000s versions of the Patriots that found ways to win. I think they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. If the Kansas City Chiefs keep finding these improbable ways of winning, we might see a three-peat, something that we never really see in the National Football League. Second thing that pops up when we talk about second down, what is up with the Philadelphia Eagles passing game? Moreover, why are the Philadelphia Eagles complaining when they have reeled off 9 straight wins? I'm looking at the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely bloody opponents' noses with a running game that is unstoppable with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Really, Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley shattered Shady McCoy's single-season rushing record. He is sitting with over 1,600 yards this year. He is doing it in a way that, look, should put him in the conversation for MVP. Yet at the end of this game, we're talking about what is wrong with the Eagles' passing game. Jalen Hurts had only 108 yards despite knocking off the Carolina Panthers. You have wide receivers on the sideline appearing to be a little testy at one another, appearing to be testy at the quarterback and the coach because they're not getting enough opportunities. And so it forces us to do a deep dive into what is going on with the Eagles. I'll say this. I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with their passing game because this team is winning. They're winning because they play a style that is really hard to defend. When they're able to run the football with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts, they put you in a bind where you're forced to do things defensively that go against the grain. Now you have to drop extra defenders in the box. You have to play a little more man-to-man. You have to make sure that everyone is paying attention to where Jalen Hurts is because he can always option it. He can run out of it. He can run the quarterback power. He can come out. And the Eagles are running this GT counter scheme, meaning guard, tackle, or pulling. They're running this scheme that really puts everyone in the bind on the front side and the back side. And they do it in a variety of ways that you just don't know if the running back is going to be the primary ball carrier or if the quarterback is going to do it. So that is difficult. That then puts you in a situation where you're trying to cover up the wide receivers in man-to-man and do those things. And yeah, you're compromised because they have 2 very talented wide receivers. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are 2 of the best wide receivers in the league. But the dilemma that you have when you're Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni is we control the game better when we run the football. When we run the football, it not only allows us to impose our will on the opponent and wear them down in the late stages, but it also protects our defense. There's a reason why the defense is playing at a high level to complement this offense. Yes, Vic Fangio has cleaned up a lot of the schemes, the things that they did schematically a season ago. They're playing with more discipline and detail and all of that. But they also are playing fewer snaps because they're controlling the game with the running game. Now, I understand A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, despite the money that they make, they want to touch the ball. They want to feel like they're a big part of the offense. But right now, the running game has been killing it for the Eagles, and it has allowed the entire team to be better. Now, I'll say this. In the postseason, they're going to have to be able to generate some plays in the passing game because people are going to take away what you do really well, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going to have to be factors. But what I would encourage those guys to do, calm down. The game will come to you. If you're patient and persistent, the ball will find you, and you'll have more than enough opportunities to make an impact on this offense, especially in the postseason when they're really going to need the passing game the most. Be patient. The running game's working. Don't mess up a good thing. That's what the Eagles need to focus on. Third down. So third thing that showed up to me over the course of the weekend, guys, I think Russell Wilson is the X factor to the Super Bowl success of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson has been even better than anyone could imagine when he made the move to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coming off of 2 years in Denver, where look, the worm completely turned on Russell Wilson. He went from being the guy that was celebrated, hailed as the perennial all-star, hailed as the perennial Pro Bowler, the Super Bowl champion, the guy who was a bad pass away from being a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, to being cast off as someone who couldn't play. Well, Mike Tomlin saw some value in the veteran quarterback, and Mike Tomlin, look, to again a minute, he elected to make Russell Wilson the starting quarterback, despite Russell Wilson missing like 6 weeks with an injury, Justin Fields getting the team out to a 4-2 start. He elected to go with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson has repaid him back in a way that I don't think even Mike Tomlin could believe. Since stepping into the lineup, Russell Wilson, 6-1 record as a starter, completing almost 65% of his passes, 12 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, but he's averaging 8.4 yards per attempt. That is a full yard more than what Justin Fields was averaging when he was the starting quarterback. And what you're seeing, more big plays, more explosive plays in the passing game, which then allows this team to run the football at a greater clip. And it's really important when you think about what Russell Wilson adds, not only the passing prowess inside the pocket and outside the pocket, but I would say it's the experience and leadership ability that's really been needed for this Pittsburgh team. So let's think about the Pittsburgh team and some of the players that you had to deal with, particularly George Pickens. George Pickens is what we call a red line player in terms of his emotions run hot. Sometimes you need a quarterback in the huddle that can calm that down, get them on the same page, get everybody on the same page to make sure they're doing the right things when they need to do them. When I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm looking at a team that can control the game on offense because they can run it. Defense is always lights out. Like they're lights out on defense. They can throttle anybody. They can make every game a low-score game. They can make it ugly and those things. And that allows them to really squat on the ball, dominate time of possession, run it until they're able to find some favorable opportunities to unleash Russell Wilson in the passing game. The reason why I say he's the X factor is because in a game in which he didn't have his number one receiver, he generated 2 touchdown passes, kept the offense on schedule, and allowed this offense to complement a defense that is playing lights out. When you think about playoff football and how playoff football slows down, where it becomes more of a ground and pound affair, and possessions are coveted at a premium, and points and turnovers, and all of that really determine whether you win or lose, man, Russell Wilson, superb ball security, his understanding of how to play in those games, given all the experience that he has. I think he's 17 playoff games on his resume, Super Bowl champion, been to another Super Bowl. The Steelers haven't been able to really advance because they haven't had a quarterback that had the kind of know-how to be able to get them past first rounds, early rounds of the postseason. Now you put Russell Wilson in that situation with a lights-out defense, playmakers on the outside. Sounds eerily similar to the formula that worked for him in Seattle. That's why he's the X factor to the Super Bowl, to the Steelers' Super Bowl hopes. Next thing, 4th down, final down. I think we got to have a conversation about Sam Darnold. And the conversation that we must have about Sam Darnold is the Minnesota Vikings need to keep Sam Darnold in the fold. I know it goes against the plan. You drafted J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback of the future. Yes, he suffered a knee injury, but the plan is 2025, we're going to hand the keys of the kingdom to J.J. McCarthy. Given what we've seen from Sam Darnold, might want to amend that plan. And the reason why we want to amend that plan is because the reclamation project that Sam Darnold looks like a good one. Kevin O'Connell and those guys were excited to get Sam Darnold because everyone knew the talent that he had when he was 3rd overall pick and those things. But no one expected him to be this good in Minnesota. When you look at his numbers, 68% completion rate, 3,200 yards already, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He's averaging 8.5 yards per attempt, so he's pushing the ball down the field. But more importantly, his passer rating, 108.1, super efficient. But here's what's really impressive about that number. 11 times he's finished the game with a passer rating over 100. That says that he's being efficient, he's being effective, he's not only managing the offense, but he's distributing it to a cast of playmakers that are the best in the business. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hockenson, who's just come back, Aaron Jones in the backfield. they have all the firepower that you want. And against the Atlanta Falcons, we saw how explosive they could be when they dropped a 40 burger on Kirk Cousins and the Dirty Birds. To me, Sam Darnold is making a case to not only, hey, should I be the top free agent quarterback on the market, but no, I should be the starting quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. When you see him work in this offense with Kevin O'Connell, one, why would Sam Darnold want to leave regardless of what's out there money-wise? Two, why would the Vikings want to move on from him when he is just scratching the surface on how good he could be in this offense? While you have a young quarterback that is mending from significant knee issue, why not allow J.J. McCarthy to take his time, develop at a slower pace, continue to rock on with Sam Darnold? Yeah, people will say, oh, it could be cost prohibitive, but let's just think about the contract that you could offer him to kind of keep him in the fold. Franchise tag may be about $40 million if you follow the tenets of the Baker Mayfield deal, who also did a similar deal in Tampa. Baker Mayfield got 3 years, $100 million. Okay, let's sweeten the pot. Let's make it 3 years, $110 million. Maybe guarantee 40 to 60 million of that for Sam Darnold. Now you have a good quarterback in place for maybe 2 years while you're waiting for J.J. McCarthy to develop. To me, it's sensible. I know we want to see what he looks like in the postseason, but based on what the Minnesota Vikings have done now, racing out to an 11-2 start, to me, it's a no-brainer. Bring Sam Darnold back to Minnesota. Give yourself a chance to extend this Super Bowl window as you continue to build this team up with a veteran quarterback who's shown that he can get it done in your system. Now, one of my favorite things when I was a young player, when I was in high school, I played at a high school, Millbrook High School, where we used to give out helmet stickers for great things. Whenever you did something, you get like a little paw on the back of the helmet. And so what we want to do, even though you don't do it in the pros, no helmet stickers allowed in the pros. We can give some helmet stickers out to some guys who had great for performances that need to be recognized. First one, Zach Charbonnet from the Seattle Seahawks. When you think about what the Seattle Seahawks have done, winning a game, knocking off the Arizona Cardinals 30-18, Charbonnet had a 100-yard day, 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, broke out a little bit, added some physicality and toughness to this offense. And this offense has always been kind of driven by Geno Smith and the weapons on the outside, JSN, DK Metcalf. Well, that's great that they can throw it all over the yard. But when the Seattle Seahawks are able to run it and complement this defense that is beginning to thrive under Mike Macdonald, you got to love their chances of winning the NFC West. And so because of his performance against the Cardinals, Zach Charbonnet gets a helmet sticker. Next, guys, we got a couple guys. We're going to have a pair of duos that get helmet stickers. And so we can go Minnesota and the LA Rams. First, we can go with the Minnesota Vikings. I talked about Sam Darnold and wax poetic about how great he's playing. Well, part of the reason he's playing well is because Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are absolutely crushing it on the perimeter against the Atlanta Falcons. Both guys go over 100 yards. Both guys had signature plays where you saw them put the ball in the paint. And as they are dominating on the outside, they make the game easy for Sam Darnold. So hats off to the Minnesota Vikings guy. Man, you could talk about arguably the best duo in ball. They certainly are deserving of the award. But let's go to the LA Rams. We talked about the Rams, but I didn't talk about the Rams. I talked about the Buffalo Bills and how Josh Allen might have been the MVP coming out of that game. But what I saw was Puka Nucua and Cooper Kupp kind of sending a warning shot to the NFC about what could happen if the Rams get in the tournament. And looking at the combination of the two, I saw Puka Nucua have 12 for 162, a touchdown, had another touchdown on the ground, big body, physical, really thriving and dominating as a route runner, but also doing it as a block on the perimeter. Not to be outdone, the Triple Crown winner, Cooper Kupp, look, this dude is sacrificing. He kind of felt like a fullback on the perimeter, the way that he was lead blocking for Puka on these screens. He finishes 5 for 92, and collectively, these guys kind of found their rhythm with Matthew Stafford. They stressed the defense of the Buffalo Bills, sideline to sideline on those horizontal plays, fly sweeps and motions, the way they were blocking, also some of the intermediate production they're able to provide. When you think about a duo that can get hot at the right time, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nucua, look out, the Rams are coming, and they're coming because the duo on the outside. Now let's look at defense. And defensively, I know the Miami Dolphins aren't the best defense, and they knocked off the Jets, and the Jets aren't good. The Jets aren't going to the playoffs for the 14th straight year. But look, the the playoff hopes for the Miami Dolphins were hanging by a thread. Zach Seiler helped them. Like Seiler finished with 2 sacks, closed it off, gave them some production, gave them the toughness and the energy that they needed. More importantly, he helped this team kind of turn things around. So when you think about the Dolphins, and everyone will talk about what Tua was able to do and what he was able to do throwing the ball to Jonnu Smith and those things, at the end of the day, the defense kind of found a way to slow the game down until Tua could get hot. So that put a helmet sticker on my man for the Miami Dolphins. Final point, this came up. This is the extra point. Bill Belichick potentially going to my alma mater, the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, there are a lot of people that are outraged at Bill Belichick coming to the college game and what he would do if he had an opportunity to go to the college game. I'm not so skeptical. Now, we don't know if it's going to happen because he was on TV today talking about it and just talking about how he would build it. But I would say I can't imagine a player 18 to 22 with serious NFL aspirations not wanting to play for the greatest football coach in the NFL. And even though he's doing it potentially at the collegiate level, why wouldn't you want to soak up that knowledge? Yes, people are talking about the no-nonsense button-up program that he probably would run. But, man, I've seen that program work at Alabama. Nick Saban won 7 national titles using a program that was very similar to the one that he learned from Bill Belichick. So if Saban can do it, why wouldn't the originator be able to have success at the NFL level? And I know what you're saying. Oh, he's 73. He's too old for it. But maybe he has a significant other that wants to go to grad school. He's just going to help her get into school. I don't know. Just something to think about. So that's it. It's the Bucky Brooks Show. We talked about all things football. Join us later in the week. We'll begin to talk about the college football playoff. We'll talk about some of these draft picks, and we'll talk about the next week of games to come where we'll be able to separate some more of the contenders from the pretenders. Until then, I'm Bucky Brooks. We'll see you next time.